Hi, good morning, everybody. It's a great opportunity to have you spend the next few minutes with us, as we share a few thoughts about the book that we've just published and is now available for sale, and certainly encourage you to purchase it from the aspects of, having a much broader understanding of truly what bioregulatory medicine is all about. Our goal with writing the book was to expand people's knowledge of things that they can do for themselves, to create a much better understanding of what health is about. With what is bioregulatory medicine, what is biological medicine, how is that different than many people who go to their physician on an annual or semi-annual basis, unless they have a specific condition or problem that they're interested in having some support with. What our real focus of writing the book was to help people understand, how do and why do people get sick, and what are the types of things that we are really looking at when we're trying to help somebody who, when they come to a physician, to try and understand what their healing process is all about. So what the focus of the book is to allow people to appreciate the fact that many of their health challenges didn't just happen last week or last month or 3 months ago, but in fact have been a lifelong challenge. Our body is a pretty amazing machine. It has the ability to self-regulate, which is a good thing, which is really what bioregulatory medicine is all about. It's the self-regulation of all the systems within our body that allow it to be able to correct imbalances. We have many different organ systems, of course. You only need to look at the number of specialists that are now available in the medical world to realize that all these specialists are dealing with sort of individual organ systems. Bioregulatory medicine doesn't really want to focus on that, because it's our belief that you can't just look at one system thinking that you're going to balance every system if one system is out of balance. So if you have a cardiovascular problem and go to the cardiologist, and they'll do what they need to do, but that won't balance your endocrine system, it won't balance your lymphatic system, it won't balance your digestive system, et cetera, et cetera. So bioregulatory, and the focus of the book is to create an understanding, because what the body is supposed to do and what the body does do in many cases is, and believe it or not, you are supposed to get sick at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. And that's not a bad thing, because that's how we tune up our systems. So, and with the book, when you read the book, you'll sort of get an understanding that how the body responds, and when we're exposed to something that's not us, foreign to us, we say, not self, is it that number of the organ systems, not just our immune system, but a number of our organ systems will move into action. And what that action, it's that action that creates signs and symptoms, whether you have an allergy, or whether you get a cold, or whether you have an upset stomach, or whether you have a change in your digestive system, et cetera, et cetera. Those themselves are not the problem. They're just a sign that there is a problem. So our body regulates itself, all these systems come into play, and then, by doing that, the body is then capable of moving back into a place of balance, which is what we're really looking to attempt to do. And then we move back to this place of being in balance, and we go along another few months, and then some things happen. There's more stress, or we don't sleep as well, or we're traveling to different time zones, and et cetera, and we get a little out of balance, and the body tells us and saying, well, you're more tired, or your digestive system doesn't work, et cetera. But unfortunately, what ends up happening for many people over time is that last phase of going back to reestablishing balance doesn't happen. And as a result of that, the body keeps working on something. So it keeps giving you a headache, or it keeps giving you a sore back, or it keeps creating bowel problems, whether it's a looser stool or a more constipated stool, or it's a change of your appetite, or you don't sleep as well. And so what do we end up doing? We end up going to the pharmacy, the drugstore, and saying, ask the pharmacist, what do I need to take for this? What do I need to take for that? And we'll try this, try that, and it seems to help for a while. So you get a headache, and you said, oh, I'll take Tylenol, and the Tylenol takes it away, at least for right now. But tomorrow or in a few days, the headache comes back again. So we know that the headache isn't due to a Tylenol deficiency. So, their goal in bioregulatory medicine is to try and appreciate and understand, but why are these headaches happening? And what we find is that when people are having a sign and symptom over and over and over, they're into this state of chronic imbalance, and the body doesn't quite have enough of its own vitality to recreate, to get back into balance of where it needs to be. And at that point in time, the processes start to compensate for each other. Unlike a computer, that when one system breaks, you can take the computer to a computer expert and they'll be able to fix it. Well, the body tries to fix it on its own. And what we find, and what you'll read in the book, is that it's very common that who in fact ends up at a doctor's office, the vast majority of people, 75 to 80% of patients, are women over 40 and men over 50. And that's no accident that happens at that particular age, because up until that point, with some exceptions, obviously, children have their own challenges with ADD or ADHD or asthma, and teenagers have issues perhaps with the menstrual issues for what's going on, and people in their teens after college, may be getting into migraine headaches or, a variety of stress type situations. But for the most part, the vast majority of people going to physicians are, as I said, women over 40, men over 50. And why does it take that long? Because they've tried to manage their issue, their problems, whether they have heartburn one day, or whether they have a headache, or whether they don't sleep well, or whether their energy isn't quite as good, et cetera, et cetera. They can't carry on. They don't have the same amount of stamina. So by the time, the patient shows up at the doctor's office, and they say, oh, well, we'll take a comprehensive history, we'll do some comprehensive lab tests, et cetera, et cetera. And that the attempt is to see, is there something that's broken? However, talking about blood tests, for example, if you go for an annual exam and your doctor does a blood sugar and perhaps a cholesterol level and your kidney function and liver function, et cetera, and says everything looks fine. And that's because 95% of people who have a blood test, it is fine. That's just the way the numbers are set up. And if you're in the 5% that falls outside the reference range, if it isn't too far, they usually say, oh, it's fine. It's just a little bit out of normal. Well, it's not normal. So what we're looking at is optimal levels. We're not looking for just normal, because normal, unfortunately, just leads to some other type of a problem that people end up having. So what we're most interested in understanding people is to really comprehensively, how do we understand what all the underlying problems are in all the different organ systems that are available to us? And that doesn't mean we have to go to 10 different specialists in order to determine, the gastroenterologist gives us one piece, and the cardiologist gives us a piece, and the pulmonologist gives us another piece, and the rheumatologist gives us another piece. We're looking at, in bioregulatory medicine, the establishment of the opportunity with more in-office functional type testing that can give us a bit of a hint long before a problem actually shows up. So you'll read in the book, in one of the chapters, how we can do something like an in-body evaluation of body composition to try and give you a sense of, what is your total body weight, how much body water do you have, what percentage of your body is water, and women should typically be in the 55 to 57%, men should typically be in the 60 to 62%. And when people are having problems, it's very unusual or very unlikely that they're adequately hydrated, even though they say, but I'm not thirsty, I don't get thirsty, or I drink 2 liters of water a day. Well, just because you drink it doesn't mean it gets inside your cells, which is where it really needs to be. Or we can do a heart rate variability test to see, do you have adequate energy reserves? And is the reason that you think your energy is low is because your endocrine system is depleted? Or more commonly, is it your nervous system that's out of balance? And certainly in many of the patients who show up in our clinic here in Scottsdale, or now to be in Providence also, Providence, Rhode Island, the aspect is that their nervous system is out of balance, and they've been doing a lot of compensation, over a period of time. And they're the two main systems: the parasympathetic system, which is our rest and relax, our healing, our digestive part of the digestive system, and the sympathetic nervous system, which is our flight fright, is often out of balance. We should typically be in about a 60% sympathetic dominant state and a 40% parasympathetic. The 3 meals and sleep time should be parasympathetic, and then the rest of the day, as you're sitting here watching this, you're in a sympathetic state, aware sort of your surroundings and what's going on around you, in order to be able to, understand, am I in danger of something serious happening to me? So when we start combining those tests with a contact regulation thermography, where we look at 15 different organ systems by checking 119 points in the body, both in a non-stress situation and a stress situation, it gives us a really good indication of underlying type problems. Not because the lab test says that you're normal or within a normal reference range, but rather that things are not in the optimal range, which is always what we're looking to do. So it's really important that the bioregulatory approach of trying to get people back into this place of balance, or homeostasis as we call it, is not just a simple function of, well, something doesn't feel right, what does a blood test, or what is it? Maybe we need to take a picture. Maybe there's an x-ray. Maybe there's an MRI that is being done for someone that says, oh, no, everything looks fine. We don't really know what the problem is. And we know that there's so many problems that can be out of balance in the body. And so our focus is not to talk about diseases. We don't believe that the disease is the problem. And whether it's something as minor as, athlete's foot, to something as serious as cancer or an autoimmune problem, we can say those are the reasons that people go to the doctor for treatment, which is necessary. Of course, we want to help people feel better, which is an extremely important part of biological medicine. But more importantly, it's to keep asking the question, but why do you have that? So if you have the autoimmune condition affecting your thyroid, commonly Hashimoto's, which affects a good percentage of our population, it's one thing to say, oh, you need to take thyroid replacement and that'll help your Hashimoto's. But more importantly is, well, why do you have Hashimoto's? Why doesn't everybody have Hashimoto's? Why is your thyroid out of balance and somebody else's thyroid isn't out of balance? And so, the function in bioregulatory medicine is to not just say, oh, here's the solution to your thyroid numbers that are out of balance and it'll help you feel better, but it never really addresses the problem. And then when we start looking at organ development, using more of an anthroposophical Chinese medicine approach to medicine, where each of our organs develop energetically, in specific time frames, we start to understand that many, especially the thyroid phase, which is perceived to be about 18 months of age to more or less 6 or 7 years of age, is very common in that era of our energetic development, that something goes a little astray, something goes a little awry. And when it goes awry, it doesn't show up maybe for 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 40 years. And therefore, just managing the autoimmune aspect of the Hashimoto's, which will make people feel better. But if you want to optimize, we have to address, but how did you get here? So we always look at health as the aspect of, it's a journey. I like to use the analogy of a river. We start at the headwaters of the river when we're born, when we're conceived, actually. And you think of it being clean and pristine, and you hear the birds singing, and there's fresh air. There's not a lot of pollution. There's not a lot of problems. And then as we go through life, we start to drift down the river, come and see the doctor. You're somewhere in the river, and the role of the physician shouldn't be just to try and stop your downward drift, but to be able to turn your boat around and go back up to the headwaters of the river, so that we can actually restore health. The goal is eventually is to die of old age. One night, just like the Queen's mom at 101, she went to bed one night and she didn't wake up. That's a pretty nice way to pass through life. So it's not just about quality, not just about quantity, it's also about quality of life. And until we spend more time looking and searching for the true underlying problems that people have, which is at which point we start to institute a whole variety of different types of natural and, if necessary, pharmacological therapies to buy time, if you will, because people, in order to heal, have to be able to sleep. So if people are not sleeping, almost no matter what we do, we're going to have a great difficulty helping the body heal itself, because it's only during the night that the body is capable of healing itself. So we have these multiple stages that we put patients through, and as we're attempting to deal with whatever their particular concern is. Once again, it could be something relatively just as an annoyance. It doesn't really affect their activities of daily living. They can carry on their life, which is what happens, and usually not until something it can't be managed by something over the counter or something you do at home. We end up being able to recognize the fact that there are things that people can do and do for themselves that either will contribute to continuing the imbalance or alternatively correcting the imbalance. So there's something that one of the chapters in the books that describes what we collectively call natural laws, things that all 7.6 billion people on the planet now are required to do on an everyday basis in order to survive. And it describes that in detail, and that becomes a very important part of bioregulatory medicine. I mean, things as simple as getting outside every day. We live unfortunately, in tight boxes. For example, in the East today, it's a little chilly. I understand you're getting some snow. You can probably tell behind me the sun coming in the window here in Arizona. So as a typical sunny day, we don't have to deal with snow. So we do get outside every day pretty easily in this part of the country. Other parts of the country, not so easily. However, it is a natural law that we shouldn't be living inside a box that has a room that's closed. In the East with a lot of insulation, not so much in the West, because we're more about air conditioning than we're about heating per se. It's also important that we do something that isn't necessarily just because we have to do it. It's something that's enjoyable. It's something that's fun. It's something that we understand that, there's a brevity. We have to laugh every day. We have to have a good time. We also need to drink water every day. We talk about, drinking coffee where you drive by Starbucks, or if you're in Canada, by Tim Hortons, and, people are getting their latte because they didn't sleep well last night. So they're going to use, their 16 ounces of coffee to basically wake up. And, it's like, coffee's fine. However, if you're using it as a medicine in order to wake up or to be alert, then that tells us that there's an underlying problem in one or more of your organ systems. So we're always questioning why. Why do you have this? If your doctor is treating you for high cholesterol, for example, it's one thing to say, well, I'm on a statin drug to lower the cholesterol, but it's more important to say, well, why do you have high cholesterol? And we know that in our patient population, that most people who come with high lipids, it's not their diet. The diet is actually quite good. It's because they don't understand that 80% of your cholesterol is not from your diet. It's from your liver, your digestive system, making the cholesterol. Cholesterol is a very important component of our every cell in our body. We make every hormone with our cholesterol. So we need cholesterol. In fact, we can make it too low that we're interfering with hormone production. We're interfering with cell reproduction over time. That's a real problem. So, looking at those types of things. So what, you have to eat something. So we need to customize with the bioregulatory approach. What is the best diet for you? There is no one diet that suits everybody. In fact, that's why there's 1,001 diet books that have been written. People are always thinking about diet as something that you do if you want to lose weight, if you want to look better because there's a wedding coming up or an anniversary and you want to look good in, you know, in a new dress or a new suit type thing. Now, diet is what you eat on an everyday basis, and that has to be customized to the individual. Food sensitivities are present, but we say, but why do you have food sensitivities? What's going on in your digestive system? What's happening in your microbiome, which is the gut flora, which has had a lot of press and recently some negative press, which is not really substantiated, you know, at all as to, you know, what was tried to put forth. Probiotics are probably one of the most essential things that we all need to be doing on a daily basis. And if you look in you know, ancient cultures, they were all ate fermented foods, and it didn't matter where you were, but there was some form of a ferment. You know, whether you're in Asia and eat kimchi, or you eat yogurt, or you eat miso soup, or, you know, those types of things that we have on an everyday basis. So a diet is an essential natural law. Drinking water is an essential natural law. Getting enough sleep is an essential natural law. And we don't get enough sleep in this country. You know, 7.5 to 8.5 hours is pretty much what's necessary to restore and to heal, that I mentioned of what the parasympathetic system is supposed to be doing over a period of time. In addition to that, we should be raising the head of our bed 4 to 6 inches, because it helps improve circulation. It helps the lymphatic system, which is part of your healing system at nighttime. So we need to do something that's fun. We need to play every day. We need to get outside every day. We need to sleep in the dark with no Wi-Fi, no cell phones, no iPads, none of that stuff in the bedroom, because all those foreign, you know, electromagnetic frequencies are not helpful for our overall peace of mind. We need to be eating the food. Hopefully I won't lose my voice here. Eating the right food for us, drinking water, and, you know, the rule of thumb with water is half your body weight in ounces. So 150-pound person should be drinking about 75 ounces of water in general, and so you should not ever get thirsty. Obviously, if you're doing some sport or activity, you're going to, which is understandable because you're losing water a lot quicker rate than you normally do. But generally speaking, if you get thirsty, you're already into a 3%. You're about 3% dehydrated, and it only takes 1% dehydration for your brain function to change. And a lot of people are always brain fog, or what did I forget today type thing. And so, you know, one of the simplest things is make sure you're well hydrated. Once again, a natural law. So each of these components you'll hear about, or read about, excuse me, when you read the book. We also talk about in the book the history. You know, how did we get here? How did medicine get here? And I think you'll find that a very interesting read when we go back 2,000-3,000 years, the time of Hippocrates was considered the father of medicine. And what happened, you know, through all the different ages and generations, and, you know, how did we arrive at, you know, the type of medical system that we presently have? That is woefully wonderful if you have an emergency. It's woefully wonderful if you have an accident. But unfortunately, with the chronic type illnesses that 50% of United States and the world now experiences, and the numbers just keep increasing, unfortunately, it's because we're not following the ways that our body has the ability to be able to balance itself and to find the you know, the right balance of where it needs to be or where it needs to go in order to be in balance. So health is not about luck. Health is about hard work. Health isn't something that you go about and, you know, follow a 12-week program and suddenly you're healthy. Health is something that you work on an everyday basis. It's we have the ability to heal itself. That's one of the reasons that bioregulatory medicine works. And if it wasn't for the fact that we use a tremendous variety of different therapeutic approaches to try and support the regulatory systems in the body, we'd never be able to heal. You know, a typical example that if you've ever broken a bone, per se, you know, like you go to the doctor and they put a cast on and basically they immobilize it. And what else do they do? Nothing. Well, the cast doesn't heal it. It's the fact that the biological processes in the body are allowed to heal it. And what's interesting, if you put a broken bone in a petri dish without everything the body has, it'll never heal, because it can't, because it's missing the vitality, it's missing the vital force necessary. And we talk a lot about the whole idea of energetic medicine. And we're almost out of time, and so I would be remiss to not also mention the importance of a biological dentist. There's a chapter that talks about the whole concept of how dentistry has an impact on the rest of our body, and how important that is. In fact, each of our teeth is a warning sign, if you like, or is a microcosm of some other organ system. For example, your eye teeth on the top, which is the third tooth from the center, directly relates to what your liver does, directly relates to what your gallbladder is doing. And sometimes people will have pain in their teeth, but there's nothing wrong with the tooth. The pain is actually down in their liver and gallbladder area. And so the whole idea of biological medicine and amalgam fillings and root canals and cavitations and all those types of things have to be looked at in the big picture. Also something that we address in the textbook, in the text itself. So I'm going to encourage you to, this will be a relatively quick read. I think you'll find it incredibly enlightening. I think that you have the potential of, there's many questions that may come up for that. We have the opportunity, in forums like this, to be able to answer those types of questions as they come up. And I would encourage you to, spend some time with it and share the book with your loved ones. Share it with other people who are trying to create an understanding of, why is this particular problem, or why am I doing, what I've been suggested to be doing, but I'm not getting to where I need to get to. So that's part of the whole of what it is that we're ultimately looking for, ultimately trying to achieve, and was the main reason we wrote the book. Because I think it will allow people to understand that there's a whole new avenue out there, there's a whole new world out there that will allow people to approach their health with a very proactive way. And finding a doctor who practices biological and bioregulatory medicine will certainly help you and add you more steps into your healing journey. Once again, it is a journey, and it is lifelong. It's not something that, in 3 months suddenly I'm better, because you will get better as time goes on. And I think the book will help you walk through some of that. You'll still need professional guidance, but it will at least give you the idea and the understanding of, the reason that we wrote the book is to open up the idea of people's minds that the body has the ability, and there's so many more things available in our world, in our countries, that will allow people to be able to restore and to be able to heal themselves. All right, my time's up. So I hope that this has been helpful as a bit of an overview of what you can expect when you read the book. I highly encourage you to purchase the book, read it, and then if you have questions, you'll be able to get in touch with us, and we'll do our best to answer them. So have a great day. It's been wonderful talking to you. We'll talk to you again.